Hello, this is Lisa LeRose on Vibrant Living Network, Connect to Love with Michael J. Russ. And I was looking at a quote today from Joan Chittister, who is a Benedictine monk, and she said, "Our role in life is to bring the light of our souls to the dim places around us." And I can think of nobody better than Michael J. Russ, who brings his own light to everyone he meets. He is an author, speaker, drummer, golfer, world traveler, and now I just found out that he is an artist. And one more gift to share with the world, Michael. So welcome. How are you today?
I'm awesome. I'm absolutely amazing. Every day for me is magnificent because that's how I intend it to be. And I don't let anything get in the way of that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think you have a gift. You have a natural inclination that you are really good at making others thrive, to seeing the gifts. You take your passion of getting to know people and your personality, and you really help to bring out the gifts in other people. And I think that beyond anything else really makes a difference in this world. You know, I think for everybody in their life, we have different things that we're given. We have different limitations. We have different talents. And for us to use those, really can make a big difference. You know, when you have a skill and you have no passion, it just becomes, I'm good at writing, but sometimes, there's no passion there. But this morning, I was in the shower, which is sometimes when I get my downloads of information. The words
Good point. Gotta have them somewhere.
I need to find some pen and paper that I can take down notes when I'm in the shower, because it just was flowing. And I don't know if that was the same for you when you were writing your books.
It's interesting. It would come just about at any time, and I would always have a journal with me in my car. This was I started writing my first book before cell phones were a big thing, and I would have a notebook. I'd have a journal. But go ahead. I want to hear about this in the shower conversation you were having, and what was the end result of that?
It's got to be at least 20 years ago, I attended, it was an intuitive workshop. It was a week long, and I actually met one of my lifelong friends, Scott Robinson, at that workshop. And during that time, one of the bits of information that came through was that I had 17 books in me, and I thought, geez, only 17? And then the person sort of, they were a medium, and he said, "Oh no, there's probably more than that, but that's what they're showing me is one of your gifts." And then a little bit later on, I kept thinking, I have all of these different ideas for books, but I just couldn't seem to make the time to do that. And I thought, what's blocking me? And I was taking a class, an energy psychology class, and I thought, what do I want to work on? And that was one of the things. I wanted to find out what was my block for sitting down and writing a book. And what was really interesting, it was something that was completely unexpected. It wasn't that it was safe to write this book, putting myself out there and putting information. The subject matter of the book, it has to do with holistic approaches to cancer. So, and putting yourself out there and putting information out, certainly there can be liabilities, but that wasn't what was blocking me. What I found out is that my block wasn't, would it be safe to write the book, but would it be safe for others if I wrote this book? And I sort of took a look at that, and I re-examined it, and I cleared some of the information. And so I have been working on my experiences as a health coach over the last 25 years, working with individuals that are out of balance with cancer. Because I sort of feel as though, Wayne Dyer used to say, don't die with the music still in you. And this is knowledge that I have accumulated, and it can make a difference. And every time I kind of back away from it, somebody will reach out to me, so-and-so that I know was just diagnosed with cancer, and just last week, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, there's somebody, there is a 40-year-old young woman who has 4 children who really could use your help. And so I find myself, saying the same things. And so I, decided to sit down and start to write. And one of the things that may sound completely unrelated to cancer was one of my chapters, The Lessons from an Apple Tree. And I was sitting upstairs, this was many years ago, probably about 20 years ago, and there was a lightning storm, and the lightning hit the electrical wire outside my house, and it severed it. And when it severed it, the wire started arcing, and it was shooting electricity all over the place. And it finally grounded on my apple tree in the front yard. And when it did that, it was really interesting because it burst the water lines. The concrete then became electric. And so when the electric company came out to try to handle what was going on, they found out that they couldn't until they shut the system down. But what was interesting, once they got everything together, this tree, it took an incredible amount of electricity in through the main part of the tree, and it transferred, through the roots. And my neighbor said to me, "Well, that tree's dead. You've got to take it out." And I looked at it and I said, "Well, you know what? I'm really grateful for that tree, and I'm just going to sort of see what happened." And part of the tree died off. But every year since then, I've had spectacular leaves. I've had amazing apples. It never really bore fruit before that. And so sometimes it takes an event that's that shocking to really, root us and ground us into bearing fruit of what it was that we're meant to do. So in a nutshell, I was writing that chapter of my book this morning.
That's fabulous.
The lessons learned from an apple tree.
That is fabulous. And let me start out saying 2 things. First and foremost, I've discovered that although you were complimenting me on one of my gifts in terms of relational connection, relational connection for me is a 2-way street. And I love connecting with people who can inspire me to be a better person, be a better writer, be a better thinker, enjoy life more. And you are one of those people. It's not only
you're so kind. Thank you.
Yeah, that I help you do things, and I help other people do things. Other people who I connect with actually do the same for me. And I think calling them muses is kind of short-sighted. However, I'm inspired. I get intuitions when I speak to people like you. When we connect, I get intuitions, and I have to write them down. And whether I use them in a podcast or something, I'll probably develop a talk or a podcast around whatever it is that I write down, because it's that important. If I write it down, or if I speak it in, type it into my phone. I used to walk every morning by myself. I'd walk 3 miles a day, and I would be talking into my phone half the time. There would be so many intuitions that I would get, that inspirations, intuitions, aha moments, epiphanies, whatever, about things that if you looked at me through binoculars, you'd think I was crazy, because I'm walking around talking to myself. I'm power walking and talking to myself. Now, thank goodness I got some earbuds now where I can put them in and nobody thinks I'm crazy anymore, because they think I'm talking to somebody on the phone. However, the thing that I find interesting about what you just said about your tree, this is the second thing, is that this is the way it happens. Call it a cosmic 2x4, call it an event in our lives that is totally if we perceive it as a transformative event instead of just something that's an inconvenience, then we can move forward. It's all how we perceive the event. Because if you are
Absolutely.
if you're not on the highly conscientious, highly consciously aware scale, where you've had the realization that you create your life, you create your reality, and how do I do that, and how does everything that I do throughout the day contribute to that? How is my thinking, my inner conversation is running through my head? How do my perceptions and how do my thoughts about myself and what I'm capable of and the world around me, how does that all kind of cozy up to me creating my reality? How does that enable me to do that? I'm fascinated by this right now because I'm finishing my second podcast on creating your reality, and I'm just actually putting the ending on it right now. And it has forced me to kind of look at creating a reality through your thoughts, beliefs, and actions in a different way. Concepts like perceptions and sovereignty. It's caused me to look at them in a different manner. And these kind of events that you're talking about, that the great, even real life experience, awesome metaphor, by the way, awesome metaphor. Those happen all the time, and they happen on different levels, to different degrees. And I'm someone who's trained myself to spot the nuance in the little things. Spot the nuance in the little things. That's what I'm always on the lookout for. That momentary conversation, that meeting, chance meeting, supposedly accidental or coincidental meeting with someone. A lot of people will just walk away and go, it's great, I met someone, and I'm on to my own thing. I'm back into my 3D world again. I sit down and just think about why the universe brought me that person at this particular time. Was it I re-examine my intentions? What had I been intending, and how does this person fit into that puzzle? Is this the connection that is here to help me move forward in that direction? And I have fun with that. To me, I'm really passionate about that because in all the noise and chaos and distraction, we forget that it's people. Life is about people. It's about relational connection. It's the thing that Glenn Brooks always talked about. He's deeply into relational connection. How can we get a deeper connection? How can we establish that connection? How can we embrace that connection? How can we nurture it? How can we, make it blossom? And he was always interested in the feelings. He quickly, and that's something that I do. I found myself doing that for years, of course, but I talked about it in the last radio show we had about connecting with your own feelings and then helping other people connect with theirs. And that's why we're here. Interestingly enough, we just got caught up and distracted by the illusion of everything else going on that really is there to help us, to help guide us, to help take us through this life journey that we have and realize our own exceptionalism. That's what it's about. And it gets lost sometimes in the noise. And I feel right now, probably more than any other time, not any other time in history, that's kind of ridiculous, but based on where we are right now in our world, with the onslaught of digitization and everything else, and the loss of a lot of direct face-to-face relational connection that we should be engaging in. We should be calling people at least face-to-face instead of texting them. We should be making an active effort to meet with them at a coffee shop or bar or wherever, to talk with them, to find out what's going on in their lives and how they feel about things, and looking at their facial expressions and discerning from that what they're not saying, which is really, it's not possible to do that through digital connections. Reading people is an art. It's a skill, and one that if you work at it and work on it, you can really get to know people's body language, and you can put what they're saying and the tone of their voice and look on their face together with their body language, you can really kind of get a sense of where they are and how they are and what they're feeling and what they're doing. So to me, that's fun.
Absolutely.
I get into that. So from your perspective, we were talking just a little bit about talents and gifts, and one of my biggest pet peeves is that the schools nowadays, the elementary through high school, even especially high school, don't allow young people to really discover who they are. There is no exposure to different things from a vocational perspective. And through those vocations, they also get to know who they are, what they're capable of. They get to discover that talent that they didn't know they had. You mentioned that I was an artist. Well, interestingly enough, my little story about that I discovered is that I was doing soft sculpture art with my Hawaiian girlfriend back I think started in '79, and we eventually opened a store in a place called Folsom, California, and we had that store for a year. And this is the same girlfriend that ended up passing away a year and a half later from an asthma attack. So I'm forever grateful for the time that we'd had the opportunity to spend together. The interesting thing is, after she was gone, I started doing some art that I started doing something called trapunto. It's not really a name word you hear of at this particular point, but it's when you draw something and then you stitch it, then you stuff it, and it turns into a sort of a 2D, 3D kind of thing. And I decided one day, I sat down and I decided to take, back at the time I enjoyed watching Magnum P.I., because this was the early 80s, the very early 80s. And
I like the reruns.
I liked his Ferrari. I liked his Ferrari, 307. And so I decided I'm going to make a trapunto art piece out of that. That's about 2 by 3. And I said, that's great. Now I have to draw a Ferrari. Can I do this to scale? And I literally ended up, long story short, drawing a Ferrari 308, I think 308 GTV, to scale, and doing the work of art that I wanted to do. And I realized at the time that I had this ability to draw arcs and to create something. And I did it, when I say did it to scale, I measured a picture, and I did the picture, in a 2 by 3. It was a picture out of a magazine. And I really blew it up. But I had measured each aspect of the vehicle in the picture, and I recreated that in a larger scale. And
That's
I was
amazing.
like, wow, blew myself away on that one. Could finish the piece, and I still have it.
Oh, you still have it? I was going to say, it was probably one of those things that you just couldn't bear to sell, in your shop. And I understand that. And I think... True. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, there's an event held in Pittsburgh, although it hasn't been live, but it's entitled Art All Night. And what I love about the event is it's a 24-hour event, and anybody, no matter what your art talent is, can submit one piece of art to be exhibited. It's all run by volunteers and donations. And they have live painting. So they will have a canvas, and they'll match up to artists who don't, sometimes they do know each other, sometimes they don't. And you come up with an idea, and you literally paint so that the people that are there attending can watch creation of art, how it becomes art on the canvas. And the one year I was to be partnered up with somebody, and they didn't show up. And I thought, well, you know what, I really don't want to not be here. It's something that I enjoy. It nurtures my soul. But I never felt confident as an artist because I didn't go to art school and whatnot. But I found myself totally immersed in this piece. I didn't know quite what was going to unfold on the canvas. I had no preconceived notion, and I just let go, and I allowed myself to paint. And what was so interesting, it's just a young girl with a lantern, and it's sort of like almost like the cityscape way down in the distance, the dark sky and the lights. and she's standing there with this lantern. And what was so fascinating about it, I had no concept of how much time elapsed. I wasn't there to show off or to be an ego, like, look at me, I'm such a great artist. I didn't feel confident. I felt I was limited in my art skills. I only felt confident to paint with somebody. But here, when I was done, what was so fascinating, and it wasn't non-intentional, there was a very interesting glow around this girl. And the next day, when the paintings, they are auctioned off to raise money for the next year's event, and I saw this painting, and I just sort of, I wanted to have it. I wanted to own it. And geez, this sounds so interesting. I'm bidding on my own art, but it was just something that I wanted. Maybe it was a reminder of going beyond my comfort zone. I look at that. I have it hanging in my bedroom. I have lots of art, and it's one of my favorite pieces. And maybe it's a symbol of something that you can achieve. And again, I did it for myself. My limitations as an artist, I didn't really think about it. I just allowed that to be in that time. Is there something that you can relate to, Michael? I'm sure maybe the first time you were on the golf course, or even like with that Ferrari.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that I haven't really explored my the talents and gifts as an artist. I just know I can draw things, and on occasion I will, when it's necessary, I will draw something, create it, or whatever. But I have an angel design that I created back in 1998 as I was reading Doreen Virtue's books about angel communication and communicating with your own angels and things. And I created this sort of a calligraphic angelic design that is very unique, that I am in the process of launching as an Angel Life brand, as the moniker for that. And I drew 6 other designs, calligraphic designs of people, and that I named oneness and helping each other and life and all this kind of sort of thing that I created. This was back in the 90s, before the year 2000. I created note cards and journals out of them, and eventually I'll bring those out. The thing that I think is important about talents and gifts for our audience is that the unfortunate thing is that many people who discover they have a talent for doing something are talked out of it by someone they respect, talked out of pursuing it further by someone they respect, or a authority figure who literally supplants this thought virus of, you'll never make money doing that. Forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of being in touch with your gifts is not necessarily to turn it into a business. I know of many artists that do great stuff. They're just not great business people because they're artists. I mean, they're painters or sculptors, but they're not business people because they're creatives, thinking differently, out of a different side of their brain, and intuiting designs that they're just absolutely spectacular. So from the perspective of what your art, your talents and gifts can do for you, you have the ability, literally, to tap into that gift, to be able to ground you later in life.
Mm-hmm.
The first shame, of course, is that the first tragedy, I should say, is that you're talked out of developing a deeper connection to your gift or your talent, whatever it may be, or talents. That's a travesty in its own right, because we are all born with some sort of special gift that we have, whether it's something that we've carried over from a previous soul experience or whatever. Playing music, being drawing, writing, making things. It could be woodworking. I'm so admirable of people who have a woodworking shop. I really wish I'd had the time to to work more with wood. I do it here. I create things here. When I need to create things with wood that are practical, I'll do it. I'll go borrow some tools, do this and do that, and make whatever I need to make that's utilitarian, that helps me do whatever. I'm out at the barn. I'm incredibly handy. I'll figure out how to move feed bowls around and intuit ways of keeping the horses from destroying a automatic water feeder or something else, keeping it on the wall. And I love doing that. It's so much fun. So much of what we do in life doesn't have a finishing point. Did you notice that?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, no beginning, no end. My whole life is 38 years. Yeah, my whole career is 38 years. Is no beginning, no end. I just leave when I leave. When I come back to it the next day, I pick up where I left off. There's no end in sight. So I cherish the opportunities to do something that has a finishing point. And to me, I'd call those little creative journeys. When I used to mow lawns, I would mow a lawn and edge it and do everything, and I'd look at it after I was done and go, wow, it's finished. That looks awesome. Now I might plant a plant. Again, I might do something at the barn that requires fixing something. And my girlfriend says, why do you like doing that? I said, because there's an end. I get to look at my finished work. And there is a certain sense of joy and fulfillment and satisfaction in having completed something. And
absolutely.
we rarely take time to relish that. And, whether it's painting something, I'll paint those 18 door frames, caulk and paint those door frames in the house. And when we remodeled the house, I did a lot of things that I could do on my own, paint ceilings, paint walls, paint trim. I enjoyed it because I have a steady hand, I can paint, and I just enjoyed the labor of it. And it to me, I didn't perceive it as a problem, being something I didn't want to do. I perceived it in a way that, let me take this on and see if I can do this, whether I can create this thing and finish this thing the way in my mind's eye I see it. And that is, there's a lot of, we just totally gloss over the satisfaction that comes from that. And the grounding effect that it can bring to us. It's a solitary mission, and or a solitary event generally when you're painting or writing or creating. And I love the audiobooks I've created because they're finished works. I've self-published them. I've got them in a box and at Amazon thingy or whatever. When I go out and show them, I've got a finished product in my hand. And I wrote the first audiobook simply because, about golf, by the way, that, tying golf to life and how you can use golf to succeed in life and as a person, succeed as an individual, be more successful in whatever it is that you did by approaching golf from a different perspective, from a mental perspective. And I did it because I wanted to see if I could actually bring it to life. I had an idea, and I wanted to see if I could bring it to fruition and put a CD in my hand. That was the reason I did it.
And also you were sharing your experience and your passion for golf, and from a perspective that other people may not have looked at it before. I mean, I'm not a golfer, and the reason I'm not a golfer is I don't have the time. I don't have the time to, perhaps it's being a perfectionist, but I know that you need to invest the time and the effort. I mean, I'm not just, maybe I have some undiscovered natural ability. I don't really think so. But, that's okay because I can watch other people. I could, if I want to spend time with somebody that's golfing, which I have done, I've walked the course with them while they've golfed, and I don't feel a loss. My weakness or lack of ability doesn't prevent me from enjoying something that brings somebody else joy.
Yeah. Deepak Chopra didn't like golf until he actually had his first lesson. Now he's hooked on it. Yeah, he'll talk about
that. Makes all the difference, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I say that golf mirrors life, it is almost an exact replica. It is amazing As I wrote, I think I wrote it. One of the podcasts I did, I think it's the one I'm about to record, that people quit the game of golf for the same reason that that most people don't enjoy life as much as they really could, because golf requires you to think and act from sovereignty. It requires you to perform alchemy in just about every moment that you're on the course. To be an alchemist, it requires that, and it to me, I just look at it as a way to practice being the best alchemist that I can be, which is managing my my emotions and my time, my patience, and my mental state. And I play the absolute best when I'm in complete and total control of my my state of mind, and that is it's the beauty of the game. And what I attempt to get people to understand is that it mirrors life. If you're impatient in life, you will be impatient in golf. If you love yourself in life, you'll love yourself in golf. If you don't like yourself in life and you beat yourself up all the time, that's exactly what you're going to do when you play. And the experience that you have is of your own creation, literally, your own creation between your two ears, the 5 inches, between your two ears. That is, and that's what life is. Life is literally.
Absolutely.
That's right. It's literally of your own creation, and it is how you perceive yourself within the context of life, that determines your experience of life. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have. If I could say just one thing about that, is it's wonderful to realize that you have that much control. People are always saying, "Oh, my life is out of control. This is out of control." No. It's not out of control. It's totally within your control, because your interpretation of everything is going to determine your experience. And when you drill it down and start managing your own expectations, your own perceptions, managing your reputations, your interpretations, that is when you really start making every present moment count. And that is, there's a simple beauty in that. However, you have to remain alert as to the fact that you have that kind of power and that kind of ability. I mean, literally, at this point, I've drilled it down so much in my writing, in my podcasts, that I'm even more micro-focused on it today, on making every moment as good as I can make it. It's fun to do. I don't think you see it as a chore. However, it's something that we all have the capability to do. And my mission, I guess at this point in life, is to help others see that they have that control. They can create that connection to life. They can be that all this other stuff that's going on out there is just noise and distraction, and really an opportunity more than anything else to practice being your sovereign self, basically practicing your own brand of alchemy, personal alchemy, to stay happy and balanced. And your gifts and talents tie into that, because you have to recognize, if you have pursued any talent whatsoever that you have, you recognize it, found it, and just if you laid it aside 10, 20 years ago, pick it up again. It's what you need right now. You have that gift for a reason, and being able to pursue it is going to bring you such peace and joy and freedom. The very things you're looking to get from something else, maybe work or your endeavor in your business or whatever it is, your family, you're going to get that from engaging your gifts and talents.
Right, I completely, 100% agree, Michael. So much of when we have an emotional state, it determines our quality of life. Whether I walk out the door, frustrated because my morning didn't go the way that I wanted to, or I change the energy and I walk out that door with a smile and, bump into my mailman and he sees me with a smile on my face, really sets the tone for my day. And I try, I am like you. I enjoy tasks like painting a wall. It is a quiet time for me where I can just be present with, and it's fun. I know a lot of people look at it like a chore. Like, why would you want to do that when you can hire somebody? Well, I take pleasure in it. I don't oftentimes have no distractions when I'm just focused. And when I'm done, I'm thinking, wow, why didn't I paint that room sooner? It does. It makes you feel good. And I really like that you bring out the fact that your weaknesses are not failures. I have been listening to this book by Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk, and one of the things that really hit home to me, he tells a story of his I think he was 7 or 10 years old, and they were doing a special thing at the school where you had to dress up with your culture, and his mother dressed him up as an East Indian king in a sari that didn't fit quite properly, and he was to sing a prayer. And as soon as he came out on stage, he said, everybody, including the teachers, started to laugh at him. And because he was so unnerved, he could barely sing the song, and tears started flowing down his eyes, and he couldn't see the paper with the words on it. And finally, one of the teachers came out and wrapped her arm around him and escorted him off of the stage. And so at that point, he really developed a fear of speaking. And as he got older, he decided he was going to do an event and where he would speak in front of a group, and he arranged for this particular lecture, and when he showed up at the room, nobody else showed up. And he stood there, he said, because he felt that his words had value, and he stood there and he gave his lecture to an empty room. Mm-hmm. And and I started to think about all the times that I felt embarrassed and why I was shy. And it really hit home and how you bring yourself to that point. And he said the next time he started, he decided he was going to give it another go, and he advertised a little bit better. And he had 10 people at the next event. And then he was asked at work to do a presentation, and it was so well received, they asked him to become a corporate trainer. And so, I think the greatest message in there is to face your fears, to embrace your weaknesses, know that you're not going to be good at everything, but that's why we work at it. We develop a skill, and perhaps maybe I'll meet you in Florida and I'll take a golf lesson and join you as a participant on the golf course rather than just an observer. But I think it really hit home to me because there's so many times, we may not have been physically laughed off a stage and been in tears, but we've had that same emotion. I think all of our audience members can relate to that, putting your hand up in class and feeling like we're judged, feeling that we're open and vulnerable, and how you go past that. And that's what I really love about what you teach on your Life Moves podcast and what we speak about here on Connect to Love, because I think it's just a gentle reminder that, as we learn and grow, they become experiences. And as you said, sometimes you see an end and you really make a conscious choice to embrace every day and to make your life that much better. And
thank you. It is. I appreciate that, everything you said. What I find interesting about about Jay Shetty's story is that and it's something that I drill into the people who listen to my podcast, is to see everything that every event that you're exposed to is an opportunity instead of a problem or an adversity. There's such a focus on a whole, overcoming adversity. The whole concept is, for me, when I wrote my book, Zero Adversity, the thing that occurred to me more than anything else is that adversity is a perception. It's a perception that we have. We've in society been trained to look at certain kinds of events as adverse, as problems, as things that we need to deal with. Everything from birth to death, everything is an adversity, an adverse experience, and then so there's this whole cottage industry in overcoming adversity. When I simply say, why don't you flip the word adversity into opportunity and give yourself a different perception of it? Through that change in perception, you will now look at it from a different angle, and you'll approach it in a different way. And so adversity is a label that we want to put on things, and because things we don't understand, things we don't know if we can actually get through. There is no negative unless you say it's negative. That's a judgment that we make on a daily basis. We judge things as positive, as negative, as neutral, as whatever we perceive them to be. I want to say this about gifts and talents, though, which is really interesting, and it came to mind while you were talking about painting and other things and things I do in that whole conversation. There are things we do that when we participate in solitary activities, what happens is that we open pathways to inspiration. It's when our angels and guides can talk to us, because we are engaged in doing something with single-minded purpose, a la meditation. To me, it's meditative to paint a wall. It's meditative to paint trim. And I get these epiphanies, these aha moments throughout that. Because the problem with most people who are asking for guidance, asking for help, is that they're so busy, their minds are so busy doing things, that the aha moment, the inspiration, the epiphany is just waiting to come into their mind. It just doesn't have an opening. And when you participate in your talent or your gift, that opening occurs. And it's another reason to participate in things that you love. Love, it's interesting. This connection with love, unconditional or otherwise, it fascinates me, because people I've talked to everybody I've talked to who's had a near-death experience or read about a near-death experience has said that the profound sense of unconditional love is completely and totally overwhelming. And I go, okay, great. How do we create that down here while we're alive? How do we create that? How do we instill that in ourselves? How do we elevate ourselves to that frequency so we can put it out there and other people can sense it, experience it, and they can actually pick up and carry the mantle themselves? They can, they can see you as a role model for loving life, loving yourself. And it is interesting. The frequency of love is extremely high, up there with enlightenment and joy and happiness and all of that. And it's something that allows you to have to experience, I should say, the kind of peace that you're looking for, the kind of peace, the kind of inspiration, the kind of, everything that you look for in being busy doing something with people, being busy in life, taking people from one place to another, whatever. If you're a parent, you're taking your kids out and around, whatever it may be. When I travel, I, as a musician, somebody who doesn't really practice all the time, I've got a drum set sitting 3 feet behind me right now, and it's always there in my office. And sometimes I'll get the feeling of, I just need to balance myself for a second. And it happens when my girlfriend has to leave the house. I've got to put the cat out of the room, and all these little things that have to occur to create that perfect moment. However, when I travel the world, if I come across a band no matter where it is, in a club, at the hotel we're in, I ask if I can sit in. Now, here's the interesting
wonderful.
thing. They don't know who the heck I am. They don't even know if I can play. They don't know how I can play. They don't know how good a player I am. They're in a public setting. They are working. They're getting paid to work in front of guests, paying guests. And they always say yes.
Well, that's because I think the intention that you put out, and probably your beautiful smile, and it all becomes part of the experience.
It is true. For me, what I love about it is it does something that I encourage other people to do. And this. Glenn used to say, "Step outside the known." Right? Mm-hmm. Remember that? It's one of Glenn's favorite things. Step outside of the known.
Absolutely.
That is my way of stepping outside of the known. By participating, I don't know the songs they're going to play. May not. I'm good enough to be able to pick it up in a hair of a second. And my whole idea is I want to put myself in a position where I have to succeed, where I have to believe in myself, where I have to have faith that I can do exactly what I need to do. That's mm-hmm. what I do. That's the whole process. And it's exactly why I do it. Because, and I've done it everywhere. I've done it in Brazil, Costa Rica, Mexico, Europe, Turkey. I've done it all over the place. And Asia even. And I've loved it. And the people, musicians are such wonderful human beings. Believe in you.
I agree.
There's a belief, the creativity, and they love to be challenged. It's really wonderful. They're some of the most amazing artists that are out there. And they never asked, how long have you been playing? They never asked any questions. Of course, in Mexico, the group didn't speak English, so that was, I guess, out. Which made it even that much more interesting to sit in with a group where they didn't speak English in a hotel that had 200 people sitting in the lobby where they were playing. That was interesting. I laughed at this. To this day, I laugh about that connection that I could make with them. And
you know what's beautiful about that is you didn't let the limitation of the language barrier. You dropped into your heart, which is, and express they could probably feel the love you have for music, when you have a passion for it, and you exuded confidence because of that, and I know how you are. I'm sure it was, the way you approached was very kind and very, and I'm sure that they were excited. Let's see what you got.
Hey, who's this gringo? What is he doing here? He wants to play. Yeah, come on, sit down. Yeah, I'm getting paid. Hey, if I can sit out for 4 or 5 songs, I'm doing well. I'm still getting paid for it. Well, bottom line is that it is something. My girlfriend looks at me and she goes, "What are you doing?" You don't know these people. You don't know what's going on. But she's been, you do it in enough jam sessions around mm-hmm. the world, and it becomes second nature. However, we all have something we can do, and it's what I call living life. It's the ultimate way to live life, to trust yourself, to believe in yourself, to have faith in yourself and your own abilities, 110%. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no maybes. There's no doubt. Perhaps there's none of that going on. It's either you do it or you don't do it. And when you commit to doing it, you put every ounce and shred of passion and belief behind yourself. And I encourage people to actually put themselves in a position where they have mm-hmm. to believe in themselves, 110%. There's no backing off, and mm-hmm. and prove that they can do it, that they can be successful.
Well, I'm smiling. You can't see my smile, but to our audience members on PRNFM, oftentimes whenever I have these conversations with Michael, I always have a big smile on my face. And as you were speaking, Michael, about putting yourself out there and accepting whatever challenge comes your way. I had a few years ago attended a Cirque du Soleil event, and I always, it's very participatory. We always have very nice seats so that I like to see the performers' faces. I like to be, feel like I'm really part of the show. I don't want to be up in peanut heaven. And so I have these little clowns that come around, and this particular performance, they were coming around and joking with the audience, and the one gentleman, I looked at him and he looked at my partner, and I thought, geez, he's going to ask him to go up on stage. Oh my gosh, but instead they picked me.
Right.
And they pulled me up on stage, and they explained that they put some wings on my back, and they pulled me out, and this particular, it's all done in pantomime. They put some music, and this character started to dance with me. Well, I've had dance lessons since I was a child, and I thought, well, here I am up on stage. I'm going to play up to the audience, and, I'm painfully shy, which I know is hard to believe, but I danced and flirted, and, I was up on stage, and I was going to make the time that I was up there as enjoyable for me as it was for the people that were in part of the audience. And what was so interesting is there was another character that was the love interest for the character that I was dancing with, and she tapped me on the shoulder and she's like, "Come on, get up."
Oh, really?
And it was very cute. It was very sweet. But what was interesting was after I was in the restroom, and somebody said, "Oh my gosh, you were part of the show." And I said, "Oh no, I was not part of the show at all." And one of the ushers said to me that, the night before they had brought somebody up and the person didn't want to participate at all. And it was sort of a letdown for the audience. And there was, sort of like one of those reminders that when you are when you join a band or you're asked to participate in something that may be out of your comfort zone, that, just having fun with it, enjoying the moment. As you said, we have these different moments in life that are presented to us, and how we embrace them, it impacts us, for a long time to come. I mean, I had every time I think about that, I have a big smile on my face. And,
of course,
there's no cameras or anything like that. It wasn't on, I don't know if anybody did videotape it, but it was, it allowed me, to, became a part of me, I guess is what it was. It was a fun, silly thing to do. And, I enjoyed my time.
It becomes a part of you. I'm going to give you one quick story, because what you just did there reminded me of something that happened in Harrah's Tahoe. I was at the nightclub watching my favorite band, which is Tower Power, which I've been watching since 1975. And I had the opportunity. I was in the audience, and long story short, they go through the audience every show to find somebody who to sing a line on their very favorite song. Was called "So Very Hard to Go." It's an awesome song. And they came around and they put the mic in front of me, and I know the song, so I sang the verse that the line that they were urging audience members to sing. And the guy stopped and he said, "Whoa, wait a minute. You need to come up on stage." Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here with my mother and my girlfriend, and so I went up on stage with my favorite group of all time, singing and actually sang the first verse to and the chorus to one of my favorite songs of all time. Right there on stage in Harrah's in Reno, and they loved it so much that they said, "Could you stick around for the next show?" And I did it again.
That's awesome.
First show I was just picked out of the audience. Second show I became the shill. Okay, so those kinds of things happen, but here's the bottom line. The bottom line is you have to say yes when those things occur. They become the experiences in your life, the basket, the cornucopia of various experiences that you have in your life that money can't buy. They're there for a moment, and you have to do it. You have to experience it. You have to do the best you possibly can, have faith and belief in yourself, and make it happen. You did it on stage with Cirque du Soleil, by the way, which I've been watching for, oh my gosh, since the late 80s. I've been watching Cirque du Soleil. I've seen at least 10 of them from the very, very beginning when they were traveling around in their tents. And I love them, and I know you're talking about the mime comics that come around, the comedians. Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant concept, by the way, for a show. And what I love about Cirque du Soleil is that it's not about language. The language they speak isn't English or any intelligible language in the world. Yet, and that's not the point. The point is it's a show that appeals to everyone, all ages, all people around the world, everybody. And and that's, I think I'm still laughing so much because I envisioned it as you were doing it, because I've seen the show where they do that.
It was ovo, and so it was about these bugs, and it's quite what's so magical. It's an experience when you walk into a Cirque du Soleil show. The music moves you. It touches your heart.
Oh, yeah.
The colors. It's a sensory experience. And there again, it's the passion. These people who do these performances that are very physically demanding, night after night, but they love it. They love it.
Yeah, it's their passion. It's their art. They're creatives, and they have talents and gifts to do that. And in Montreal, they have a Cirque du Soleil school where you can go and if you have a specific talent, you can go learn how to be better at it and actually audition for a show somewhere in the world. And,
oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's true. They have a Cirque du Soleil school, and so you can do that. And I find that, again, it's all about. It's not whether you're dancing or a comedian or whatever. It could be anything in your own community. Life is about living. It's about experiences, and living through experiences is one of the most gratifying, fulfilling ways to live life. When you get up in the morning, you've got a vocation, or you're retired and you don't know what to do, thinking, okay, how can I create experiences for myself today? What can I do to create a really interesting experience for myself today? That is the question. Not, what am I going to do today? No. What kind of experiences am I going to create for myself today? That's the question you ask. When you face life every morning with that question, everything changes. Your whole perception of your day, yourself and your day, it completely changes. And if you have kids, how can I create an experience for myself today within the context, and then help them also create experiences for themselves today? You remember experiences. You don't remember a lot of other things that you do, but you remember experiences, like we're talking about experiences that we've had. Those you remember. If you start focusing on that, everything else becomes absolutely amazing, and it falls by the wayside. The negativity falls by the wayside. It really does. It really, really does. It's all about how you perceive it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we began the show, we were talking about one of the quotes that Jay Shetty shared, where he said, "My limitations make space for the gifts of other people," and I think that that's an important lesson for each one of us to learn, that although I may have no skill at doing philosophy. There's lots of books that I can.
You had to choose philosophy, didn't you?
I did choose philosophy. I had to drop that class, and philosophy was not what I thought it was. Or geometry.
Yeah.
Although I love sacred geometry. That's what's so ironic. It was the logical step-by-step proof. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I thought, well, can't we just get to from A to Z? without having to go through each step. Like, I would have to prove
I'm not
this.
really a linear thinker here. I
Yeah, so that, but there are lots of people who are very skilled at that, and and I do, you look at that, and and I think that for each one of us, no matter what your job is, it has value. No matter what your passion is, it has value. And I'm probably like you, Michael. I really appreciate good woodwork. I saw this bowl at the thrift store the other day, and did I need it? No, but my gosh, it was a work of art, and it was a salad bowl, and I looked at how this artist had taken the grain and worked with the wood to create this. It was really a work of art, and I thought, I felt the love that went into it.
Oh yeah,
and it didn't matter, that it was a thrift store $10. I'm thinking, this is a work of art.
So let me ask you a question. I got to ask you this question before the end of the show. What would you do if you had all the time? What talent have you not explored yet that you would love to participate in?
I think I would like to be a travel journalist. I would like to, Yeah, how about you?
Sculpting.
Sculpting.
I want to sculpt. I want to sculpt something. Clay, stone, whatever. I want to sculpt sandstone. I want to sculpt something. Yeah, I want to get some tools. Either something. Clay involves working with my hands. That's cool. I can do that. I'd like to work with some tools and sculpt something interesting, something maybe a couple of feet tall, and just kind of see what comes out of my head. That is, I like working with tools. And the like, and the travel journal thing, that's really kind of cool. It's funny because I was thinking about that the other day. There are, because I love to travel. My only problem is that when I travel, I'm not really thinking about the travel from a perspective of helping other people enjoy what I'm enjoying. I'm too busy in the moment enjoying what I'm enjoying. And that because when you take pictures of things, you take yourself out of the present moment and you become part of the creation of the art behind the picture. And I'm too busy at being in the picture.
That's a beautiful gift, to be present in where you're at. And I do understand that because I had a friend of mine whose mother went to Jerusalem, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to see your pictures." And all of her pictures were hand-drawn. She didn't take a camera.
Oh, my gosh.
She drew her experience. And it was really, really amazing. It was very unexpected, and it's as you said, it's something that sticks with you. So I would, encourage our audience I would ask you that same question. If you could step out of your comfort zone and do something that you had never thought possible, what would that be? Especially since you knew you would not fail, in the immortal words of Glenn Brooks.
If you knew you could fail. Beautiful.
Yeah, we're so grateful for each and every one of you that listen to us weekly here on PRN FM, on Connect to Love, on the Vibrant Living Network. And Michael, I know we're coming close to a close, and I would love to have you close the show today.
Great. Well, I'm just going to piggyback onto what you just said there with regard to if you knew you couldn't fail, if you knew it were impossible to fail, if you knew that your 100% belief in yourself was going to create the success that you envisioned, what would you do? And whatever it is, go do it. Participate in it. Step outside of the known and be the greatness that you were meant to be.
And so it is. Be the greatness you're meant to be. Thank you. And
Till next week.
Each and every one of you. Till next week.